My dad gave my cousin my inheritance. Am I wrong for exposing a shocking family secret? The silence shattered as I stared at the keys glinting in my cousin's hand. A brand new apartment given to her on her wedding day. My blood ran cold. A tsunami of rage and disbelief threatened to drown me. The man who refused to help me secure housing, who lectured me about standing on my own 2 feet, had just bestowed upon my cousin a gift that would set her up for life. My name is Sophia, and this is the story of how my perfect family imploded in the most spectacular and devastating way imaginable. Our house was something straight out of a magazine's spacious rooms. My father's business success made it all possible, and he never let us forget it. Sophia, honey, remember that everything we have comes from hard work, my dad would say, but I was more interested in playing with my cousin, Chloe, than understanding the value of money. Chloe, just a year younger than me, was the daughter of my father's younger brother, Uncle Mark. Our families were inseparable, though the contrast in our living situations was hard to miss. My mother would smooth things over, saying, "Your uncle's family needs our support. Family takes care of family." She was always the diplomatic one. Chloe and I shared everything close, our secrets, our dreams. "We'll go to college together," Chloe would say, lying on my bed and staring at the ceiling. "And then we'll live in apartments next to each other, and our kids will be best friends too." When high school graduation approached, true to form, my dad stood beside my mom, beaming with pride as he made the announcement at our joint graduation party. Both my girls deserve the best education possible. I remember how Chloe's eyes welled up with tears of gratitude, while I just smiled. Looking back now, I was just happy to have my cousin/sister by my side as we packed our bags for college. We were going to take on the world together, to peas in a pod. This was going to be amazing. Nothing can ever come between us. Right, Sophia? Chloe would say. Nothing, I'd reply. God, how naive we were. How naive I was. But that's the thing about perfect families. You don't want to look too closely at the cracks in the foundation. College flew by faster than I expected. I felt on top of the world. Everything seemed to be falling into place. Almost everything. I've been thinking about getting my own place. I told my parents one evening, dreaming of having my own space. My father cut me off, putting down his fork with a harsh clatter. "You're an independent woman now. You have a good job. It's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet." My mom just sat there nodding in agreement. I felt like I had been slapped, so that's how I ended up in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment. But I was determined to prove I could do it on my own. A year later, Chloe graduated. We celebrated at her favorite restaurant. Jake proposed and she shrieked in joy. We're getting married in 4 months. I threw myself into my maid of honor duties. Despite my own housing struggles, I was genuinely happy for her. The wedding day arrived, and everything was picture perfect. The ceremony was beautiful, the reception lively. I watched Chloe dance with Jake. Then my father stood up to make his speech. "Chloe," he began, "you've been like a daughter to me all these years. Watching you grow up alongside Sophia has been one of life's greatest joys." I smiled, sipping my champagne. Standard wedding speech stuff. "That's why," he continued, pulling out envelope, "I want to give you something special, something to start your new life together." He paused for dramatic effect. "The keys to your very own apartment." The room erupted in gasps and applause. Chloe rushed to hug my father. "You deserve this," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I love you like my own daughter." I sat there, frozen as relatives crowded around Chloe and Jake, congratulating them on their incredible gift. My mind was spinning. The same father who told me to stand on my own 2 feet had just handed my cousin an apartment. I gripped my champagne glass so hard I thought it might shatter, but I kept smiling, kept playing my part. This was Chloe's day. I wouldn't make a scene. Not yet. I waited exactly 3 days after the wedding before I showed up at my parents' house. My hands were shaking as I rang the doorbell, but my voice was steady when Dad opened the door. "What's on your mind, Sophia?" He settled into his favorite armchair. "Really? You're going to pretend you don't know?" I stayed standing, too agitated to sit. "But you just handed Chloe an apartment like it was nothing. Want to explain that?" Dad sighed like I was being unreasonable. "It's different with Chloe. She doesn't have the same opportunities you do." "Different how?" "We went to the same college. Got the same education. What you pay for, by the way. She comes from a poor family." My mom chimed in, trying to smooth things over. "Sophia, Jake's family isn't well off either." I let out a sharp laugh. "Oh, and I can just magically afford an apartment, half the country rents, save and rent an apartment like normal people. You're being mercenary," Dad said, his voice rising. "This isn't about you. This is my money. I hope your uncle's family appreciates it, because they need it." "Mercenary," my voice rose. "This isn't about money. It's about fairness. How do you think it feels to watch you treat your niece better than your own daughter?" "That's enough." Mom burst into the room. I hadn't even realized she was home. "How dare you question your father's decisions? You have no right to tell him how to spend his money. He gives another woman's daughter an apartment while telling his own to struggle. Don't you take that tone with me. Young lady." Mom's face was red with anger. "Your father has provided everything for you, and this is how you repay him, with jealousy and demands. Jealous. I was practically shouting now. You think this is about jealousy? This is about respect. About treating your own child with the same consideration you showed to others. Get out, Dad roared, until you can appreciate everything we've done for you and apologize for this behavior. Get out of my house. Gladly, I grabbed my purse. And don't worry about doing anything else for me. I wouldn't want your charity. My eyes were burning with angry tears as I got into my car. It wasn't about the money. It was about so much more. In the 5 years that followed, they changed almost everything. I built my career, rising through the ranks at my marketing firm to become a senior account manager. And most importantly, I found Michael. He walked into my life during a client meeting, a whirlwind of charm and wit. The moment he proposed, the wedding planning started immediately. Our date was set for early summer, and I threw myself into it with the same determination I brought to everything else in my life. The venue was booked, the dress was chosen, and then came the hardest part, the guest list. I spent hours at my kitchen table wrestling with this issue. I hadn't spoken to my parents or Chloe in 5 years. Not since Chloe's nasty message on Facebook. You're just jealous because I have a husband and an apartment while you have neither. Grow up, Sophia. Maybe if you weren't so entitled, you'd have both by now. But I guess some people just can't handle seeing others succeed. I blocked her after that. It was easier that way. But word travels fast in families. I was sitting in my apartment reviewing floral arrangements and debating between roses and peonies, and my phone rang. My parents, the first time in 5 years. My heart jumped into my throat and my hand shook as I answered. Sophia. His voice sounded older somehow. More tired. I hear congratulations are in order. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Does it matter? Why didn't you invite me to your wedding? I'm your father. Really? Now you want to play the father card, Sophia. Actually, I'm curious. I cut him off, feeling something about hearing his voice that unleashed all the emotions I kept carefully contained for 5 years. Will you be giving me an apartment as a wedding gift? You know, to be fair, the silence on the other end stretched out so long I thought he'd hung up. Finally, he cleared his throat. Sweetheart, business hasn't been great lately. I can give you $5,000 for the wedding. That's a generous gift. You should be grateful. After giving Chloe a whole apartment, thanks for your generosity. Dad, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. But keep your money. I don't need it. The line went dead before he could respond. I stared at my phone, numb. The notification popped up on my phone the next morning. Robert Anderson has shared a post. My father rarely posted on social media. When I opened it, my hand started shaking. I never thought I'd have to write something like this about my own daughter. She's demanding an apartment as a wedding gift. The selfishness and mercenary attitude she's displaying breaks my heart. What happened to the daughter I raised? The comments flooded in. Aunt Linda, how ungrateful can she be? Cousin James, some people never appreciate what they have. A barrage of insults flooded in. My fingers flew across the keyboard before I could stop myself, consumed by fury. Maybe if you had the same principles, I posted. You gave my cousin an apartment for her wedding. Your own daughter deserves the same consideration, or at least an explanation for the difference in treatment. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. I opened a new poster and started writing. Let me tell you all the story that's been bothering me for years. It's about a father who has always treated his niece better than his own daughter. Let me list the ways. Every birthday, Chloe got lavish parties. Her pocket money was consistently double mine. Dad paid for her education. He gave her an apartment as a wedding gift while telling me to stand on my own feet. At Chloe's wedding, she had her first dance with my father instead of her own. And you know what? The more I think about it, the more suspicious this whole situation seems. I wouldn't even be surprised if it turned out Chloe was actually my father's daughter. I hit post before I could second guess myself. The word spread back at me from the screen. A nuclear bomb dropped into the middle of our family's carefully maintained facade. The aftermath of my post was nuclear. Within hours, my phone was blowing up with calls and messages from every corner of the family. Some relatives immediately announced they wouldn't be attending my wedding. Mom called first. How could you? Do you have any idea what you've done to this family? Your father is devastated. We raised you better than this. Dad's call came next. A string of expletives I won't repeat before hanging up. Aunt Sarah's call was particularly venomous. You vindictive little freak. How dare you suggest? You're just jealous of my daughter's happiness. Then came Chloe's message. Congratulations on proving what a hysterical, paranoid person you've become. I feel sorry for your fiancé. He's marrying a delusional woman who invents 6 stories about her own family because she can't handle not being the center of attention. Don't worry about blocking me. I'll do it myself. I quietly blocked everyone who left nasty comments or messages. My wedding guest list got significantly shorter, but I told myself it was for the best. The next 2 months were a blur of wedding preparations. Michael was my rock through it all, always reminding me that he loved me. One rainy evening, there was a knock at my door. Uncle Mark stood there, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Can I come in? He asked quietly. We need to talk. I've never seen my uncle look so broken. He sat heavily on my couch, hands clasped together so tightly his knuckles were white. It's about my conversation with Sophia and all those times I looked away, the way things was going. I've lost sight. It made me start thinking, really thinking about everything I'm remembering. I thought I could believe in my marriage, but with it so broken and then the family stuff coming out, it made me wonder what was real. He told me about the early years of his marriage. He drives her home from work, saying it wasn't safe for her to take the bus. This was even before she was pregnant with Chloe. He was always bringing her gifts, expensive ones. I thought, God, I was such a fool. I thought he was just being a generous brother. Uncle Mark's voice cracked with emotion. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, in which I had to know was a paper. I had heard that a lot. The DNA test results were printed on official laboratory letterhead. My uncle had collected hair samples from all three of them himself, Chloe and my father. The results were unequivocal. Uncle Mark's genetic match to Chloe showed only an uncle's relationship. Skip 84%, while my father showed a 99% paternal match. They've been having an affair for 25 years, he said quietly. We sat there until well past midnight, piecing together memories that suddenly made horrifying sense. The special treatment, the excessive gifts, the way my father always seemed to know about Chloe's life before anyone else. All those times he insisted on driving Sarah to doctor's appointments when she was pregnant. I'm so sorry, Sophia, Uncle Mark said as he was leaving. I should have seen it, should have known. I watched him walk to his car in the rain, his shoulders hunched with the weight of 2 decades of betrayal. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I felt no satisfaction in being right. The morning after Uncle Mark's visit changed everything. My phone rang. It was Mom. We need to talk. Can you meet me at Rosemary's Cafe in an hour? I found her already there, sitting in a corner booth. I filed for divorce, she said before I could even sit down. I just came from the lawyer's office. Her voice cracked. Uncle Mark had told her everything. The DNA test results. He filed for divorce too. Sophia, Mom reached across the table and grabbed my hands. I owe you an apology. All these years, I watched him favor Chloe and told myself it was nothing. I should have listened to you. Should have seen what was happening in my own home. Mom, no, let me finish. When you posted about your suspicions, I was so angry. I thought you were trying to hurt us, trying to get revenge. But you were the only one brave enough to say what we all should have seen. We spent hours in that cafe, crying, talking, beginning the slow process of healing. Mom ordered a bottle of wine, something she rarely drank. She also told me about how she started dating again. She ignores what she did in her past. Later that evening, Dad started pounding on my door. I opened it to find Dad standing there, his face purple with rage. Are you happy now? Pushing past me into my apartment. You've destroyed everything. To families. Destroyed it because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. I destroyed nothing. I replied, surprised by how steady my voice was. You did this. I just exposed the truth. His face twisted with hatred. I won't be at your wedding. How's that for truth? I wasn't planning to invite you. I said quietly. You haven't been a real father to me in years. Then it settled. He snarled. You're no longer my daughter. A strange calm settled over me. That's fine, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I smiled. You have another daughter anyway, don't you? The look of shock on his face was almost comical. Before he could respond, I slammed the door in his face, leaving him standing in the hallway, stunned. That evening, my hands were trembling slightly as I dialed Uncle Mark's number. Uncle Mark, I have something to ask you. I took a deep breath. Would you walk me down the aisle at my wedding? There was a long pause. Sophia, I would be honored. The guest list was shorter than originally planned. Every person who attended had chosen truth over comfortable lies, had stood by me when it would have been easier to look the other way. The garden venue was beautiful, scattered with white roses and peonies. Mom sat in the front row, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. When Uncle Mark took my arm to walk me down the aisle, I saw tears in his eyes too. The divorce proceedings between my parents moved surprisingly quickly. Mom told me later that Dad agreed to everything just to get it over with. They settled out of court. A few weeks later, Mom came to visit me in my small apartment. I want you to have this, she said. She handed me a check. I don't need this money. What I need is for my daughter to have the home she deserves. She reached out and squeezed my hand. You didn't fail. I did. But we're fixing things now. Besides, what better way to use his money and to finally give you what he should have given you years ago? I won't pretend I didn't cry when I deposited that check. Every time I unlock our front door, a house Michael and I bought, I feel a sense of justice being served. Dad and Aunt Sarah got married last month. I heard about it through the family grapevine. Apparently, they didn't even wait for the ink to dry on their respective divorce papers. They're not hiding their relationship anymore. I don't follow their accounts. I don't need to. Even those who initially defended Dad couldn't ignore the evidence. Uncle Mark comes over for dinner every Sunday now. He's dating again, tentatively stepping back into life after the betrayal. The bond that my mum and uncle have had, sister-in-law and brother-in-law bonded by shared pain, has been beautiful to see. Sometimes I think about Chloe, about the fact that she's technically my half-sister. I wonder if she knew, but those thoughts don't keep me awake anymore. I have my own life now, my own home, my own family, built on honesty instead of secrets. So, Reddit, after hearing everything, do you think I was wrong to expose the truth? Was I justified in posting about my father's actions and suspicions, even if it tore our family apart? I'm desperate to know if I handled this situation the best way I could have, and I am open to hearing all perspectives, even if they're critical. Please share your honest opinions. I need to know if I was right or wrong.